Hey everyone, doing a video today on something I really want to touch up base on. It's a subject that's come up a lot recently. It's really just brought it up the past 2 days. I didn't hear about it until just earlier today, and did a bunch of research for it before I decided to do the video. But before I get it all started, thanks for watching. If you like it, share it. If you don't, share it. If you want to criticize, laugh at me, if you want to give somebody else a laugh, share it. It'll help. If you really like it, subscribe. Tell me if I need to change something around, and it'll help me improve on what I'm doing. Moving on, what I want to talk about is the whole Brian Urlacher thing. What he had said. He's referring to the NBA boycott for the playoffs, which now other sports are embracing, and they're doing the same thing. But it's a lot of the boycott, which really isn't even a boycott; it's a strike. Boycotting is you're not buying. They don't want you to buy product from or something. It's like it's like Trump telling everybody to boycott Goodyear tires. What the NBA and all the sports are doing they're actually striking, which that's what it really is. It's not a boycott; it's a strike. But what he said, it blew up. It blew up media like crazy. It was bad, and I want to touch base on it with everybody to give my thoughts on it, and it's how I feel on what he did on it. But this is what he said in a tweet. Everybody keeps calling it a meme. I say it's a tweet because it was on Twitter, and this is what he said. Brett Favre played the Monday Night Football game the day his dad died. Threw 4 touchdowns in the first half and was a legend for playing in the face of adversity. Goes on to say, NBA players boycott the playoffs because a dude reaching for a knife wanted for a felony sexual assault warrant was shot by police. Okay, first part of it, I remember the game, hearing about Brett Favre doing that. I was never really a big Brett Favre fan, but I remember hearing it. But I know I didn't watch that game. So it was a major thing. He did something that a lot of people couldn't do. But going on for the playoffs for the NBA, the problem is that we're seeing a lot of these sports, it's all the professional sports. We're seeing these players taking up with the Black Lives Matter movement. They're forcing it, which is actually hurting their view, people watching it, and it's really starting to hurt their ratings. And that's the one reason I haven't been watching a lot of the sports is because of this reason, and because of the Black Lives Movement. And because a lot of us they're saying it's for social injustice, but police brutality, the excess of force and everything, but it's not really all that that I see it as. We don't see it as big of an issue as way is being portrayed, and it's really starting to become. People are speaking out, but with the sports, especially with NBA and how it's going about all this, is that they're not taking into consideration of other people's thoughts, their stands on how everything's going, what they actually stand for, what their thoughts, and their opinions matter on it. They're forced into having to stop play. There's some people, I know there's thousands of people these athletes out there, from basketball to football to soccer to baseball, WNBA, tennis, NASCAR, all these things that they're doing this. But and through all those people, I know not every single one of them agree with it. And if they don't agree with it and it gets put out there, it becomes a show for everybody. It gets vicious, and it's bad. It needs to stop. They're forcing their beliefs onto these other players that might not agree with it. And what Brian Urlacher done, yes, he could have reworded it a little differently and still had just as big of an impact. He could have said it in a different way. It really could have helped him. But what he was doing means more. It speaks more than what he actually said. because he's showing that he's not bowing to this mob. He's not going to let people tell him what he's to believe in. He doesn't agree with the movement. Why is he being forced to follow it? Hey, that's his opinion. That's his choice, and it's no different than a religious thing. And if you don't believe in a certain religion, you don't want someone from just other. If you're religious and for one type of religion, you don't want other people from other religions coming in and telling you this is how you're supposed to do it. That's not how it should be. I don't agree with it. I don't do it. Others don't do it to me because they know my stand on things. But with this whole Urlacher situation, it gets hard. They're forcing him into doing things that he doesn't want to do. He doesn't want to believe. And if we go back to what happened with Drew Brees, he made a comment about the kneeling stuff. They got after it. It blew up in the media. They attacked him like crazy, and he was forced to apologize. It didn't matter if he agreed with it or not. He was forced to apologize for his own beliefs, and it's not right. He's using his freedom of speech just as much as the people who are speaking out for the social injustice or the racial injustice and everything. That's the exact same thing he's doing compared to everybody else. But nobody's letting him do it, and it's really starting to get confusing, and it's getting harder and harder because there's only been a few people that's actually had the same amount of courage as Brian Urlacher had for doing and saying what he said. There's only a handful. I don't think I've seen 5 people do it, and it's terrible to know that. People being forced to do this. I understand what this movement's about. I know why people are doing it. I don't care if you say, well, no, you don't. Well, actually, there's been enough of it going around that we can really start seeing what's going on. Me personally, I don't see all the racial injustice going on. I don't see all the police brutality and stuff. I don't see what's going on with the police for black on blacks as much as I'm seeing black on black crimes. And they're wanting to stop something. Which is a bigger threat to these people? It's the black on black. There's more blacks that died from other blacks than blacks being killed by cops. That's the greater threat. It needs to be addressed. But that's not how some people see it. That's the way it's going. But the people that do see it the same way I do is different. We don't see this. We don't think it's as big of an issue as you say it is. We don't hear about it as much. So when we speak out on it, we are attacked. We're being called racist. We're being called saying we're ignorant. We got white privilege. We're white supremacists. All this stuff. And I said, no, it's not. Or even if it's a black person speaking out against what is being done, because they're being called coons or something, and it's real. It's a racial thing of what they're doing back. And I said, but you want your freedom of speech. We want the people. People want their freedom of speech too. It's a two-way street going for this. You speak your mind, we listen. We speak our minds, you listen as well. But that's not the case on how all this Black Lives Matter stuff is going. It is getting hard because use last night at the events after the Republican convention of what happened after the convention and people were leaving the White House. There were mobs of people for Black Lives Matter yelling at people saying because they spoke during the event where they were there watching it. People were yelling, almost attacking people. I mean, it was bad. There was even the senator from Kentucky, Rand Paul. He's the guy that even started the no-knock, getting rid of the no-knock warrants. And they're getting after him, yelling, threatening his life. When he's walking with his wife back to their motel, they're being yelled at. And their lives threatened, everything. you people are attacking the same guy that's been trying to help you guys. And it when we see stuff like that, that's when it's making it all the more difficult to really support what these players are doing, because we don't see it. We don't have as we're seeing that Black Lives Matter, but the only time that we're really seeing Black Lives Matter is if it's a black person being killed by a white cop. That's the important thing. That's all that's getting pushed. And it doesn't matter on anything else. Even if the person supports Black Lives Matter and it happens, it's not brought up. We're only being shown one side of it all the time through the media, because it's just, we want to push this narrative of what we're doing. And that's what ways occurring. And so when we're seeing this, and when I saw what happened to the senator last night, is that he was circled by police officers, because once this mob realized who he was, they went after him. They were threatening to kill him and his wife. And I said, they had to walk around, or they just had a mob of people. And I would agree with him. He was afraid for his life and his wife's life, because it was me. It was just me. Right? So when we're seeing stuff like that, it's not really helping the cause on anything. The way it's going about is they're forcing everything down our throat, and we don't want this forced down our throat. If Black Lives Matter so much, make all Black Lives Matter, not just a certain ones that's really going to get attention through the news and media. That's not going to happen. There are black police officers being killed, and those aren't mentioned. Those aren't brought up, because the media isn't talking about that stuff. And that's where where a lot of us are having problems, because we're not being told we're not being told all the events that are occurring. Or when they give us information on stuff, they give us a one-sided, watered-down version of it, and it really hurts the story on everything. And we've seen it with Chicago. There's people making stories up to just entice these riots and destruction, saying that this one kid was shot on his porch. It never even happened. And what happened? Destruction, rioting, looting, everything. So when we're hearing what you guys are doing, we hear you saying we do want racial injustice. Stop the racial injustice, stop killings. Well, we see it as you're killing yourselves more than we're killing you. I back the police, I back Trump, on all of it. I came into this article, or this whole thing, with an open mind. I wanted to see it on both sides. Well, maybe he did really say something that was bad. Yeah, I don't agree with what he said on a little bit of it, but it's just because of how he worded it, made it bad. So I feel we need to really stand behind him on this, and I hope to no end that he does not step back and say, what I said was wrong, I apologize. Keep standing up for what you said, because it's going to motivate and really get others to follow your lead. We keep hearing silent majority needs to step up. I'm sorry, not all silent majority can do it. We live hours away from where this stuff's going on. It will eventually hit our city if it doesn't stop. It will hit your area if it doesn't stop. I believe that it's going to get, and it's still happening, is that it's getting worse before it gets better, and it's only a matter of time before it really starts hitting everybody. It will eventually hit, and the way I see it is if Biden and Harris win, it's going to get even worse. They can't even admit that it's happening. We're not going to be able to do anything about it if it stops. So when I want everybody to really stop and think, this is what Brian Urlacher did. To me, he is now the bravest person in sports for just doing what he did against a mob of people and a movement that's going throughout the country and actually the world. And he stood up to it. That is great. They go after him. He said something about he wanted Kyle Rittenhouse. 17-year-old boy that actually shot 3 people, killed 2, injured 1. Urlacher backed him, and he wanted to see him free because a lot of us see it as that was self-defense. But yet, there's a story that I've read, the way I was reading it, or the way they wrote it, was that Kyle Rittenhouse was intimidating peaceful protesters in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where all this stuff has really recently blown up on. But, because there was even a CNN news reporter sitting there, fiery events or something like that. But it was something fiery amidst, yeah, that's going to screw up people. Let's restart it. There's fiery things pop up during the midst of mostly peaceful protesting. And it's kind of funny when they have it going across the bottom of the screen saying this, that in the background behind the reporter, you see cars and buildings burning on fire. I mean, a whole building burning behind him. Wow, that's a mostly peaceful protest. I'd hate to see what they finally just say, yeah, this is a violent scene. Is it going to take a nuclear bomb to go off before CNN says, yeah, this is bad? It's not happening that way. But when he's backing something like that, when we're hearing people say these type of things about really backing Kyle Rittenhouse, I see it as it was self-defense. Yeah, he did break the law because something should happen for him crossing state lines with a firearm, which is illegal, especially for Illinois. But he was protecting the property and livelihood and business of somebody, and trying to help that community, that city. There's so many innocent people in that town that he was trying to help, and then shots were fired. We don't know where. They don't have the footage on that, but we have footage of him shooting one of the guys. But it was when he got tackled in the middle of the road and hit in the head with a skateboard. He rolls over, he fires, you see the shot into the guy's arm, and you see him just rip it apart. That's what we see as self-defense. People get it, you're sitting there saying, well, he shouldn't have had the gun. I'm sorry, when you have a black militia group that are saying that I can't even remember the name of it now. It was like NFAC or something like that is what it was. It was just a military march of black people, or Black Lives Matter supporters. They were all covered up, so it was hard to see what race they were. Walking down the road in a military formation, all with assault rifles. But yet nothing's done. And even with an incident with them, one guy accidentally fired his gun off and hit 2 or 3 people. I remember this. And then we had another incident where people were protesting out in front of a police station, and a guy shoots himself in the foot. That's evidently that guy doesn't know how to handle a weapon, because that is trigger. If you don't know to actually, if you're not pointing a weapon at what you're going to shoot, you don't put your finger on that trigger because it can go off. That's just basic gun handling teachings. That's what it is. And obviously, these people don't all know what to do, and that's where it can be a risk. But if you know how to use a gun, great. So what I'm saying now is that we just show Brian Urlacher out there that, yeah, we do support you. You're not the only one that feels this way. We really want to see everything done, as we don't want to see all this stuff happening throughout our country. We want the violence to end, but it's not going to end if we keep having the impact that we're having. If we don't have the people stand up and say, well, this is what we want, and so now that we know both sides, let's work towards finding equal grounds. Let's find a median, work towards that, start negotiating, not everybody's going to get what they want. Not everybody's going to get what they want, and I said, but it will be fair eventually. But that's all I got to say. I said, if you like it, share it. If you don't, share it if you want. I don't care. But just let everybody or let others know this is what hopefully this helps people know what we're saying, what's going on out there. I'll put another video out probably pretty soon. I don't know when, but I'll try and get it out a day or two. So I've got more I want to talk about and report on because it's non-stop right now. Thanks.